Okay, guys, Sarah here from Sara Boucek. We're going to do something different with our fireside chats. We're actually going to do a series of fireside chats individually with each attorney on a different topic, or maybe you'll get a combination of attorneys who will talk about a topic. We got something up our sleeve. But today I'm going to open it up, and this is our first fireside chat on where we are as it relates to COVID-19 and our reopening plans. So as always, I'm not going to stop this. I'm going to keep doing it because I think it's super important to you. Is we're going to take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. And why we're going to do that is a couple of things. First, can you smell the campfire through my Zoom of the lake behind us and our happy place? So I want you to kind of center yourself into a happy place and a good place, because above all else, we need you guys to stay healthy, and we need you guys to stay as focused as possible, because your school districts need you. They need your leadership. They need your ability to be the calm in the storm. They need your ability to bring brevity to the situation, and really be that person that's kind of keeping it all together, even though you are probably thinking about, like, taking a fire stick out of that fire and, like, branding yourself. It's just such a horrible place and conundrum that you're in, and juxtaposition. So what I want to talk about is sort of the approach that our firm's taking. I want to stop and talk about the approach that I hope we're all taking in the school law community. And that is one of really listening to what you guys need. What does your community need that your community needs are? What do they need? What do you need? What does your administration team need? What do your teachers need? North Shore is going to look different than Cairo. Cairo is going to look different than Edwardsville and Triad, and it's going to look different than Mahomet, and that's going to look different than Barrington, and THSC 214 and Arlington Heights and Buffalo Grove and Elk Grove Village and in Rolling Meadows. It's going to look different depending on where you're at. And I need you guys to really get in a good place that's okay. We're gonna have to be different. That is the definition of local control. We've done this before. Remember Senate Bill 315 when we were doing our evaluation plans, and everybody got really upset. Oh, I almost caught myself on fire there. But everybody got really upset that everyone was looking different. No, it's okay. It's because it's centric to what your school is. So we have to find our place to be okay with that. And so when I say take deep breaths, it's okay. Okay, substitute going fishing for your deep breaths. Substitute going golfing for an hour for the driving range. It's how you clear the mechanism. For those of you guys who've seen For the Love of the Game, my favorite Kevin Costner movie, he is on the pitching mound and he's towards the end of his career. Some of you guys can relate to that. And everything is on him. And it's the last inning, and he literally through his whole career saying, clear the mechanism. And while he's on that mound, he has the ability to make everything go quiet. And it's just him and the catcher and the baseball and the glove. And he can't hear anything else. But as he gets towards the end of his career, he can't clear the mechanism as much. And that's kind of what you guys are going through, is that you can't quiet the noise because the noise is coming at you with such force. I was talking to a superintendent this week, and it's like you guys are in the eye of the hurricane in a dinghy boat. Like, it just, the water keeps coming in and you can't get it out. But we're going to have to be okay being in that place. So when you're looking on how you're attacking this and the legal help you need, is what I want you to ask those questions to your legal friends and your legal help is, I want them to ask you this question: what do you need from us? Not what can I tell you how to do? It's what do you need? So if a client calls us, right, and if Dave Schuler at 214 calls, the first question that better be coming out of KB's mouth is, Dave, what do you want to do? What does your district want to do? It's the same exact analysis of Kathy Clark calls us from Johnston City, which is, I mean, we're going tip to tip there in the state. Did you see how I grabbed through the fire there? That was pretty impressive. But between Dave Schuler and Kathy Clark, you couldn't have two different districts, but they both need to do what's good for their community in totally different areas of the state. So the first question needs to be is, what can we do and how do we help you get there? So one, you're doing absolutely everything you can to avoid an orange jumpsuit or black stripes or anything like that. And so the next analysis that we're really focusing on, and you're going to hear a lot of this in the KB Fireside Chats, is I want you to think of everything that you're doing in a planning from a risk continuum standpoint. It is a line of continuum, and it's a formula. And so for me, it's a sum of something. On one side, you know, what it equals is the outcome that you're looking for, the outcome in every decision that you make. And then I want you to look at your risk aversion, like what is your community's, you know, tolerance for risk, coupled with the exposure that your risk exposure by getting to that outcome. Let's take the most controversial issue that's out there right now, right? In some areas, it's masks, right? Here we are. When to wear them, how to wear them. Now, in some areas of the state, we're not even fighting about masks. That's a given, we're doing it. In other areas of the state, not so much. I picked this one because it's the easiest one from a risk continuum to look at it. It's extremely controversial depending where you're at and depending where you're not at, okay? And so let's talk about that in my formula scenario. The outcome is let's say your board has made the decision to kind of put their feet in the mud and they may not want to wear masks all the time. That is the outcome. Now, you look at your risk, your tolerance for risk. That board then and the administration has to say, my tolerance for risk is low because I don't think I'm going to get sued on it. My community doesn't want to wear masks all day. They, you know, whatever, blah, blah, blah. We can put our risk in that. But if you call me, I'm going to say then we have to look at our risk exposure. And our risk exposure for not following the guidance, right, that science has dictated in various forms, ISB, CDC, the IDPH, all of those things have basically said that the number one area of how to not transmit the virus is to wear face coverings, okay? Just for the record, I'm in my office by myself. No one's around me within 6 feet, so I don't have my mask on. I am on the outdoors in my campfire, so, right? But you're calling us saying our people don't want to wear a mask all the time. Then we have to look at the risk exposure, okay? And so the outcome is no risk. The risk aversion is kind of low because you're saying, my community doesn't want it and they're supporting this, coupled with your risk exposure from following zero guidance. Okay, let's first talk liability coverage. And Rob and Mohammed and Kevin and Shane, they're gonna, I think, do this really cool fireside chat on this. So I'm not gonna get really depth. I just wanna use this as an example. Is your risk exposure goes so far that if someone sues you, you already know you have liability carrier issues. We already know that. First of all, we need to talk about that, which they're going to. I really want to know why your insurance company is feeling that way. But the second is your tort immunity. By not using face masks, which the ultimate goal is to keep your staff and your students safe, and they're saying the number one way to do that, to lower the risk of actually transmitting the virus, is to do that. What you're doing is your risk exposure is going way up on your formula. And is your board willing to take the risk exposure when you very well may be acting willfully and wanton, which means completely in direct opposite of what the guidance says? Are you willing to take that risk assessment and that risk exposure to get the outcome you want, which could result in your tort immunity being pierced, which means that it no longer covers you and that therefore people are individually liable? Okay, most places are going to look at that risk analysis and say that's not for us and we can't make that decision. Other people are going to decide something else. So why I give you this is that we're looking at a risk continuum of what we're willing to tolerate, coupled with the exposure to litigation to get the outcome we want. It's much easier when we're looking at different things and how we're looking at it. For instance, we can talk about transportation, we can talk about self-certification checks, but if you really look at the number one goal is what I want you to kind of keep coming back to on these reopening plans is what they're saying is basically the very best thing you can do is try to minimize the transmission of the virus. When you minimize the transmission of virus and you put a lot of mitigating factors in between, that is what the IDPH and ISB and the CDC, they're all trying to go for. Okay, so think about that. The most amazing thing I've seen so far is the Peoria local health department. She gave a speech that we were at, and she talked about mitigation, not elimination. Okay, and that to me is another risk assessment. How do you have in-person school but bring down the risk of transmission through mitigation? And so you're looking at each issue. You're looking at the risk is that we want to start school. Your risk exposure is how to do that in a safe manner. and then how you're mitigating those different things. So I think if you try to take a lot of that through this kind of risk formula, it becomes very objective in a very subjective world. So some of this is going to make you feel a lot better. Some of it is not going to make you feel better. And you're going to have to figure out how to stay in that gray area. And we're going to have a series of these. I think my next one is going to be on self-certifications. And so, you know, from my campfire to your campfire, think about the risk formula. Also, please take care of yourselves. Take your deep breaths in, take your deep breaths out. And that is to keep yourself in a good place, to clear the mechanism, to be able to make those decisions that are best for your community. We support you. We're here for you. Let us know what you need. If something sparks something, you want to give me a call, you guys have my cell phone. So remember, when you're asking for help, make sure you get what you need in your district out first, and then have your legal thought partner help you in that process. Okay, from my home, from my fire to yours, keep doing the great work that you're doing. Bye.